LOL, I found out I can access the network storage. That single text message, sent by a former Apple engineer named Cheng Lu, triggered the most aggressive corporate espionage case of the decade. Lu had already left Apple to work for OpenAI, but a software bug left his old credentials active. Instead of reporting the flaw to his former employer, he kept quiet. Over the next few months, he allegedly used that open backdoor to siphon dozens of highly classified files, pulling gigabytes of unreleased hardware blueprints and proprietary project data straight off Apple's servers. This is the core allegation inside a brutal 41-page federal lawsuit filed by Apple, accusing OpenAI of systematically raiding its internal databases and talent pools. To understand how aggressive this move is, remember that Apple and OpenAI stood on stage together just 2 years ago to announce a landmark partnership integrating ChatGPT into the iPhone. That era of cooperation is over. The two tech giants are now locked in a scorched earth legal war over the physical devices that will define the future of consumer technology. Apple has spent nearly 2 decades mastering physical engineering. They know exactly which materials fail under pressure, how to source components at a massive scale, and how to build the iPhone efficiently. OpenAI has the exact opposite profile. Under Sam Altman, they have engineered the most widely used AI software on the planet, but they lack a manufacturing division. They have zero experience building physical consumer devices. A software company cannot spin up a world-class supply chain and hardware R&D department overnight. The trial and error required to build reliable hardware takes decades. To build a physical AI device capable of competing with the smartphone, OpenAI faced a massive gap in infrastructure. Apple claims that rather than starting from scratch, OpenAI decided to strip mine Apple's deeply guarded trade secrets. This data visualization shows the sheer volume of the alleged talent drain. Over 400 individual data points representing former Apple employees migrate directly over to OpenAI. OpenAI targeted executive leadership. They acquired the hardware startup founded by legendary Apple designer Jony Ive, and they recruited Apple's former vice president of iPhone and watch design, Tang Tan, to be their chief hardware officer. Once that leadership was in place, Apple alleges the recruitment process shifted. OpenAI began explicitly asking current Apple employees to bring physical proof of their work to their job interviews. Candidates allegedly smuggled highly sensitive, unreleased hardware out of Apple headquarters. Think of custom logic boards, prototype batteries, and highly classified CAD designs walking right through the front doors of a competitor. Apple's lawsuit argues these interviews bypassed standard candidate evaluations. They operated as highly coordinated intelligence gathering missions, aimed squarely at mapping out Apple's upcoming product roadmap. Stealing physical prototypes was the first phase. The lawsuit outlines a coordinated effort by outgoing engineers to circumvent Apple's strict offboarding security protocols right before they resigned. Former employees allegedly coached new recruits on operational security. They instructed them to communicate over third-party encrypted apps like Line Messenger, specifically to dodge Apple's internal detection software. Working under the radar, these engineers siphoned thousands of files to their personal devices. They grabbed detailed engineering presentations, proprietary metal specifications, and rigorous internal testing procedures, handing them directly to OpenAI. Standard employee turnover happens every day in Silicon Valley, but by intentionally bypassing post-termination legal agreements to hoard documents, these actions crossed the line into organized corporate espionage. As bad as the leaked documents were, Apple claims OpenAI crossed an absolute red line by going directly after their manufacturing supply chain. Apple has spent 50 years optimizing its factory relationships to produce millions of devices flawlessly. Instead of putting in that time, OpenAI allegedly asked an Apple industrial partner to perform proprietary metal finishing processes that Apple had spent years perfecting. To get the factory to comply, OpenAI allegedly misled the partner into believing that Apple had actually given them permission to share these highly specific manufacturing techniques. A leaked design file gives a competitor a blueprint. Hijacking a seasoned supply chain gives them the real-world capability to mass-produce those blueprints at scale. You might wonder why Apple didn't sue sooner. The issue lies in California labor law, which firmly protects a worker's right to change jobs and explicitly bans non-compete agreements. Legally, talent moves freely in Silicon Valley. Apple cannot ask a judge to stop a rival from hiring 400 of its engineers, regardless of how damaging it is to their internal teams. Because they cannot enforce non-competes, trade secret law is the only viable legal perimeter they have left. Unable to sue over hiring, they are forced to prosecute specific unauthorized conduct, focusing entirely on retained devices, secret text messages, and misused documents. By pleading squarely inside trade secret law, Apple has constructed a highly calculated legal trap. If they prove this malicious conduct in federal court, they can legally cripple OpenAI's emerging hardware division before a single device reaches the public. Both companies are currently targeting the same product categories, like camera-equipped AirPods, high-tech smart glasses, and AI-powered wearables. They are competing to define the hardware interface that succeeds the smartphone, but their financial realities are wildly different. OpenAI is currently bleeding cash as they sprint at top speed toward a highly anticipated initial public offering. Apple sits on a war chest of over $140 billion, meaning they have zero incentive to offer a quiet cross-licensing settlement. The fallout has already spilled into public view. Competitors like Elon Musk are happily using the lawsuit to troll Sam Altman on social media, publicly accusing him of stealing Apple's entire technology stack. This case tests whether a software-first company can effectively challenge Apple's hardware market share by recruiting its lead designers and manufacturing partners. If Apple wins, OpenAI may be forced to destroy the very blueprints they need to launch their first products next year. Let us know who you think will win this legal war down in the comments. And if you found this breakdown helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, and we'll see you in the next one.